Hey, this is Melinda Kucsera, your indie fantasy author, and I am the host of Fantasy Lore and More, which is a interview-style series of episodes that I've been doing on this channel for actually Memorial Day weekend makes 1 year. So I hope you've been enjoying that. I've been enjoying talking to all the authors who've come on, and some others have come back and talked to us again, which is always exciting. So we like when people come back and report on, did they do the things they said that they were going to do? Did they release the book when they thought they would? You know, what else are they working on? I find all that really interesting, and I hope that you're enjoying that too. Usually this would be another one of those interviews, but the author couldn't make it today, and last week we didn't have an interview because I couldn't do the interviews. I was asked to attend a panel at a bookstore in Brooklyn. I'm a New York-based author. I live in New York State, not so very far from New York City. And yes, it was a fun time. It was really interesting. It was not a reader event. It was an event for other authors, but it was still very cool to meet other authors and to show people a project that I've been working on for probably about like 9 months, but the idea for it is older than that. More than a year ago, I had the idea for this trilogy. If you're watching this on YouTube, then future Melinda is going to edit this interview of myself and put in the video that I shot of the actual books that I've been working on. They're very pretty. There's gold foiling, there's colored chapter art for each of the chapters. There's also black and white illustrations as well. So it's a beautiful book. And those books are the Rogue Gods trilogy, which is all over my website. It's all I've been talking about because I've been writing the damn things for 9 months now. And the most popular episode in this podcast, which is called The Deep Lore, What Lies Behind the Cursebreaker series, it actually talks about one of the characters who's in the Rogue Gods trilogy. That would be the ex-god of history. And I did not see any of the things that he did in this trilogy coming. I thought we were going in a totally different direction with that character, but I was wrong. I think where the characters went is probably better than where I was going to go. The trilogy is a fun romp. There are 3 epic fantasy quests. There's 4 main characters, and our 4 they're not all heroes. We'll just put that out there. Usually I write very noble bright, meaning that the world is not so great, but it can get better. People can make it better. There's things they can do. There's opportunities that they could make things better. It's not headed towards a dystopian hellhole. It's very much not that. And that's what really separates Noble Bright from like Grimdark. And Grimdark, things are bad. They can only get worse. There is no way for them to get better. But I don't write that because I don't believe that the world is ever so badly off that we can't make things better. That's just my philosophy, my mind. Even our own world, things look pretty grim, but they can always get better. People can make better decisions. Countries can choose peace. Every day is a new opportunity. That's my philosophy. So with the Rogue Gods trilogy, things go pretty badly in the beginning because some folks decide to change something that happened in the past, which then ripples across the timeline and messes up things for other characters. So I don't want to call them heroes because some of them make some questionable decisions. Our 4 leads are the ex-god of war, who is sometimes a hero and sometimes not a villain, but I would say he's not a villain, but he definitely doesn't always go along with what the other leads want to do unless it's going to benefit him. He's out for what is going to benefit him. He's an ex-war god. He wants an army. That is what he wants. Anything that moves him closer to that goal, he's on board for. Anything that doesn't seem to do that, he's walking away. So there's that sort of push-pull with him throughout the trilogy. And the trilogy actually starts with him. He is the first couple of chapters because he does some things that accidentally set things into motion. Purely by accident. Was not his intent. And our second protagonist for that is he's an angel. He thinks he's a fallen angel. He thinks he's a fallen angel. We find out later he's not actually a fallen angel. I think reading it as the one person who's read it so far, like they weren't surprised or anything when it was revealed that he wasn't fallen. So I think he's given off like I'm not a fallen angel vibes in book one. So I don't think that spoiler really spoils very much. Yeah, so he's an angel who's in hell who thinks that he has fallen from grace. He was actually tricked into going to hell because the devil wanted his powers, but the devil wasn't able to take his powers from him because he heard a voice telling him to build a library and put all the dangerous things in it. And so that became his mission. He built that library like a fortress and put all the magical items and all the things he could find and any knowledge or anything in it. And the thing is, it's not impregnable, but let's say when he's in residence, it's difficult to get into. So yeah, that's the Library of Forbidden Knowledge, which is a frequent place that is visited in this trilogy. No, the trilogy does not take place solely in hell. That's one location where some characters start, but there's other characters and they are not in hell and they do not go to hell. Our next lead is Rosalie. She is the daughter of Robin of Larkspur, and Robin of Larkspur has her own prequel series. So you can read about Robin. She's a feisty woman, so she has a very feisty daughter. I like Rosalie. I wasn't sure if I was going to like her because sometimes Robin rubs me the wrong way. I think our personalities are too similar in some regards. But I really liked Rosalie. She was a lot of fun to write. Since the event that goes wrong, somebody changes it in the past and it ripples through, we have Rosalie and another character who are in the future. They're about 20. She's about 20 years old, close to 21. So part of the trilogy takes place about 16-ish years forward in time from the Cursebreaker series, which is when we talk about the present moment in the trilogy. Basically, it's whatever book the Cursebreaker series was at when I was writing this. That is the present. Anything before that is the past. Anything after that is the future. So there's Rosalie. She obviously goes to Mount Eredrin because every book has to go to Mount Eredrin. It is the place to go when things go wrong. It's practically a fortress. Why is Sauron not one of the leads? Because he's in every book, and I was trying to write a trilogy where he's not there. So I put him on another timeline. So in this timeline what if situation that we've got going on that sprouted from that event that somebody went back in time and changed, he's not part of this, so that he doesn't take over the book, because he has a bad habit of doing that. So I've isolated him on another timeline where everything is fine, so he's not really in the trilogy, which is really challenging because he kept trying to come into the trilogy. I didn't expect that. So when you read it, you will see what I mean. And then we have Avarian, who is the son of the ex-goddess of the past. He is a demigod, and he's a moody guy. So he's also about 19, 20. And so he and Rosalie are contemporaries. And when they go to Mount Eredrin, they obviously will meet Ran, who's about 21 and has magic and lots of opinions on absolutely everything, which don't worry, he tells you all of his opinions. He's not like his father. Sauron likes to think things and not say them. Ran is very much what you see is what you get. He will tell you it like it is. So even though you weren't supposed to get his point of view in these books, but Ran is one of my favorite characters. So even though he's not a main character, we do get his point of view. He does try to get as much page time as he possibly can in here, which is the reason why the trilogy is a lot longer than it was supposed to be. So you can blame him for that. So those are our main characters. We have Rosalie and Avarian, who are on the mortal world, which is basically Earth. They are at Mount Eredrin. We have Garen, who's the ex-god of war, is in hell. We have Argeniel, who is the angel who thinks he is fallen. He is also in hell. He runs the Library of Forbidden Knowledge. And these are our heroes. These are the people who are either going to save the future, the timeline, and the world, or completely destroy it. And I wasn't really sure until the last page of the trilogy, which way we were going. These people, they were a lot of fun to write, but only like Rosalie and Arginio were really like, well, at the beginning, Arginio was kind of mixed up and not knowing what was going on. So I wasn't sure where he was going. But after a while, like I knew where he was going. And he and Rosalie were like the constant people like trying to figure out what is going on, who did it, how do we stop it? And there's a lot that happens in it. But in book one, their basic objective is to, Rosalie and Varian just want to figure out what happened. Why do they have memories of two different lives? And why does the one that they're currently living so much worse than the other one that they remember? Like, what happened? Because that's not normal. You don't normally remember two separate versions of your life. And the two versions branch when you were like 4 or 5 years old. Like, that's not normal. So Rosalie decides that somebody must have gone back in time and messed something up. And they don't quite know what. There's also demons in this future time. They have invaded. They're everywhere. Mount Eredrin is still safe because if you've read the Cursebreaker series, this is not a spoiler. There's the 2 rings of standing stones that surround Mount Eredrin. They're basically like a magical shield. And Sauron used to operate them, but because he's not on this timeline, but Rand can operate them, obviously. So they're pretty safe. And life is continuing as normally as it can underneath the mountain, in the city under the mountain, because, you know, they have the farms are underneath the mountain, and the food grows because there's the magic crystals which glow. So the plants have plenty of light, and they have plenty of water because the river Nearthrough, which is like 3 miles wide, basically, like, imagine, like, if you've ever been to the lower Hudson Valley, imagine like the Hudson River, like down by about Tarrytown. It's that wide. And there's also tributaries that run on the mountain. There's the two underground rivers, the Anwen and the Powin, and there's a whole underground lake. There's a lot of water. So they've got water. They've got plenty of fresh water. They have the farms that grow food. They just can't go into the forest to hunt. They can still fish the rivers. So like they have food, and Rand is protecting them. So they're pretty safe for book one. In book two, not quite. Things get worse. So Rosalie starts out like trying to figure out what happened. How did the demons get here? Is that the thing that caused her to have 2 different versions of her life in her head? And Avarian also has the 2 memories, but he's a little more wishy-washy. He's not as driven as she is. And also like the thought of somebody like messing around with like a past event, I think slightly terrifies him. Whereas she's like, that's got to be the answer. Nothing else makes sense. Like, very matter of fact about it. So she convinces him, and he can time walk. And so he decides to go and check things out on his own, because the timeline is a real thing. It's a physical object that you can visit, and it's in this like pocket realm that doesn't really have a name. That's where the timeline is, and it's a physical thing. You can go there, you can look at it. Like if you can time travel. There are the X time gods, but they've been nerfed, as a friend of mine likes to say, meaning that their powers have been limited. So the X goddess of the future can't go to the past. The X god of the past can't go to the future. That sort of thing. Like their powers are limited. They have a lot of power over their domain. They can't go beyond that. So they're not like super powerful. Although I think Faye, even with her limitations, she's the X goddess of the future, is still wickedly powerful. But I also like her. She's a hero. So it's probably good that the hero has quite a lot of power. She's not a main character in this book, but she does appear because they're messing with time, and she is an X-time goddess. So of course she would show up. She would notice that something was going on and want to know what the heck is happening. So yeah, so he goes to the actual realm where the timeline is and tries to figure out what is going on, and is not able to because there's stuff going on there. So he's sort of prevented. So in book one, there's that sort of thing. They're trying to figure it out. He's now convinced that she's telling the truth, but doesn't quite know what to do with it. And there's monsters and things in that realm where the timeline is. So he's not able to like do much there. And he's just sort of feeling sorry for himself. Meanwhile, Rosalie's frustrated as all hell because she wants to just go back and figure this out. And her mind is simple. We go back, find the event, stop it, done deal. The future is fixed. We don't have to have 2 lives in our heads anymore. We can go back to living the good life that we were living. Yeah, but then meanwhile in hell, there's the ex-god of war running around and looking for his army. Well, he was convinced by somebody else that if he did this specific thing for them, which accidentally kicks off a lot of this, that he would get an army. Spoiler alert, he did not get an army in book 1. And so Argeniel, the fallen angel, well, he thinks he's fallen. He's not actually fallen. He is also trying to figure out what the heck is going on because he sees this like magical spell that somebody is building. They're trying to create a doorway between hell and he doesn't know where else, but somewhere else. And that spell is going to land directly on his library. And he's like, I'm not having any of that. So he's trying to move it away, get this thing away from his library, and not knowing that like that is the gateway which starts the invasion. He has no idea about any of this. He has no idea that about Bavarian and Rosalie or anything that they're trying to figure out in the future, an event that he is seeing in his own real time. So the first book was just a wild ramp. It's wild romp. It's fun. It's everybody is everywhere doing everything. And there's lots of magic. There's lots of action. There was supposed to be a romantic subplot in the books, but we never actually got to that. There was too much magic and too much action and too much like it would be a terrifying situation if it wasn't written to poke fun at itself, to be funny. It's not comedy, but it is definitely humorous. I definitely make fun of some of the wacky things in my world that I have created. And in book 2, they have figured out the event. They have narrowed it down and they're trying to get to it. Rosalie and Bavarian. And Argeniel is like, okay, this gateway has got to go away. There's demons going through it. They're going somewhere. This is not good. We need to stop this. And tries to figure out how to stop that. But that's not the only thing that's imperiling all of them. There's something else going on that he doesn't even know about. So yeah, I don't want to give away too much of it, but I also want to like spoil all of it. But yeah, so that's sort of what I've been working on. I've also been rambling. I will bring that to a close. So that's the Rogue Gods trilogy. I'm finishing the 3rd book, and then I have to do the formatting and I have a lot of the illustrations because I was doing them while doing the other ones. But like I wasn't sure how many chapters it was going to be. The first book was 47 chapters. The second book was 54. I just wrote chapter 58 in the 3rd book. I'm hoping there's not a whole lot more, but the characters are being extremely thorough at like tying up all the loose ends. So who knows? Like there could be 10 more chapters for all I know. I hope not, but I don't write long chapters, but it'll be over when it's over. So that's what I've been writing. And the panel was a lot of fun. That was last Friday. The guest on Saturday couldn't make it last Saturday because the book that he wanted to come on the podcast and talk about wasn't finished. So he emailed to cancel. So that was fine. I totally understand how that can happen. The current books that I'm writing don't want to end either. So I feel that pain very, very deeply. So I invited him to come back when the book is ready and finished or at a point where he can talk about it. And yeah, and then that's pretty much what's been going on. I've just been writing the Rogue Gods trilogy. That's been my life for the last 9 months behind the scenes of the podcast. I hope you've been enjoying all the interviews. I have interviews scheduled to the end of June, and then I don't yet have any scheduled for July or August. I think I want to take take a couple of weeks of not have interviews just to like visit family and stuff. I'm not sure. So we'll see. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we will have a New York Times bestselling author who's won a Nebula on here. So we'll have an author on here who is not indie published, but is published by Penguin Random House. So that will be exciting. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who they are until the interview. I'm going to record the interview on June 21st. So it should be up either that evening or the next day. I don't know unless there's some kind of stipulation where they need to listen to it first and check it out. I don't know. They didn't say anything about that, but I've not worked with an author who has been traditionally published before. I have talked to authors who have been traditionally published, but usually they were the ones signing up. This was the marketing team from Penguin Random House that signed up. So that was really cool. And it was a really interesting process, like going back and forth with them. There was a bit of a miscommunication with that, but we got it straightened out. So that's going to be exciting. That's coming up in about 3 weeks. And hopefully the Rogue Gods trilogy will be out and you'll be able to get it in 3 weeks. I hope. I really hope. My editor is like, when am I getting the book? And I'm like, as soon as it is finished, you can have it. Because, I've been editing the other chapters that are written because I'm trying to make sure we close up all the loose ends and anything we promised we were going to do that we do it. But we'll see. Yeah. Oh, and then there was some wild weather also. I believe it was it was last week where we got hail and heavy rain and a lot of trees came down. And that was quite an adventure. I've been writing about it in my newsletter because it was quite the adventure trying to figure out like what happened, what roads are open, what even was it? Because it looked like a tornado came through, but it wasn't a tornado. It was something else. So maybe I will do a podcast episode on here talking about it. It was quite interesting. And my neighbor and I like went sleuthing around trying to figure it out. So that was fun. It was like being in a movie. It was wild. Yeah. So if you are on my newsletter list or if you sign up for a newsletter in there, it's totally free. My newsletter, you can read what that is. Or I can, if you guys want, I can make an episode talking about it as it was an experience. Yeah. So that's where I am right now. Trying to finish the third book in the Rogue Gods trilogy. There's a whole battle for heaven in there, and it was so much fun to write. It was so wild. I cannot wait for people to read it because I was not the way I thought the battle was going to go, but it was a lot of fun. The second book is kind of heavy in the trilogy. The first and the third book are like they're light, they're fun, the stakes are high, but like that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, there's all the things that I usually like to write about. There's tons of magic crystals. We have time crystals. We have magical prisons that are in crystals. We have a lot of crystals in here. And we have high magic. We've got all sorts of magical transportation spells. Yeah, lots of fun. Lots of running around too. And there's fighting, and there's not really any romance. So there's characters who have crushes on each other, but that's as far as the characters were just too busy to do anything else. So if you're not a fan of romance, there is no romance in the Rogue Gods trilogy. If you are a fan of romance, I'm really sorry. There was supposed to be a romantic subplot, but the characters got so involved in all the magic and mayhem going on that they never quite got to it. So I'm going to leave the blame on them because it was supposed to be there. It didn't quite happen. But I mean, there's still, a few chapters to go. I mean, who knows? Something could happen in the climax of the book when we're fighting the big bad guy. And although one of the love interests did something that in the third book that really upset the person who had a crush on him. So I don't know. We'll see. I can't answer that question right now because the book isn't done. And then everything could change. Yeah. So that's my rambling update. So thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being part of this, whatever this is, because now we're pulling in traditionally published authors, New York Times bestselling authors with that, which is sort of exciting. And this will always be indie authors first because that's who I am and that's who I know, who I most easily have access to. But yeah, who knows where things are going. So I hope that you're stick around and hang on for the ride. Have a great day or great night wherever you are. I'm Melinda Kucsera. I've been your indie fantasy author with her rambling update. Keep reading.